The night it all started unraveling, I was watching TV, mindlessly flipping through channels, when her text came through. "Don't wait up! Crashing at Sarah's. Love you." Short, simple, and in any other circumstance, harmless. But something about it set me off. Maybe it was the fact that it was a Thursday night and she'd never mentioned plans with Sarah. Maybe it was the way she wrote it, curt, and without her usual warmth. My gut told me something wasn't right, but I silenced it. I didn't want to be that husband, the one who questions everything. The hours dragged by. Midnight turned to 1 a.m., then 2. I texted her, "Everything okay?" No response. By 3 a.m., I was lying awake, staring at the ceiling, my heart racing for reasons I couldn't explain. When I finally heard the soft click of the front door, my heart sank further instead of rising with relief. I stayed in bed, feigning sleep. From the bedroom, I could hear her moving quietly through the house. Too quietly. She slipped into the bathroom. The shower ran for a long time, longer than usual. When she finally climbed into bed, she kept her back to me. "Good night," she mumbled. Her voice was hoarse, almost shaky. "Good night," I replied, but I didn't mean it. The next day, I couldn't shake the feeling. Her behavior was off. She was distant, distracted, and quick to dismiss any questions. When I asked how her night with Sarah had been, she froze for half a second before forcing a smile and saying, "Fine, just the usual girl talk." But something didn't add up. Later that day, I called Sarah. I kept it casual at first, asking about random things before sliding in. "So, did you two have fun last night?" There was a pause. "What do you mean?" "You and Emily," I said. "She said she was with you." Another pause. Then awkwardly, Sarah said, "Oh, right. Yeah, we had fun." She was lying. I could hear it in her voice. I hung up, my stomach churning. Now, I was certain something was wrong. But I still didn't have proof. That night, Emily fell asleep early. Her phone was charging on the nightstand, just a few inches from her hand. My heart pounded as I reached for it. I knew her passcode. My hands trembled as I unlocked it. The first thing I saw was a text thread with Mark, my best friend since childhood. "Mark, can't wait to see you again. Last night was incredible." Emily, "Me too. I hate sneaking around, but it's worth it." My chest tightened. I scrolled further. The messages weren't just flirty. They were explicit. They talked about the things they'd done together, things I didn't even know she liked. And then there were photos. Her in a red dress I hadn't seen before, sitting on the edge of a hotel bed. Him, shirtless, smirking at the camera. I wanted to throw the phone across the room. Instead, I took screenshots of everything and sent them to my own email. If I was going to confront her, I needed evidence. I didn't say anything the next day, or the day after that. I played my part, pretending everything was fine, while inside, I was falling apart. But the breaking point came 3 days later. I found a receipt in her purse, a receipt for a hotel room dated the same night she had supposedly been at Sarah's. The room was booked under Mark's name. That night, I confronted her. "Where were you last Thursday?" I asked, my voice calm but icy. She looked up from her plate, startled. "I told you, at Sarah's." "No, you weren't." I pulled out the receipt and slid it across the table. Her face went pale. "Are you seriously going through my stuff now?" She snapped, trying to deflect. Don't Just don't, I said. I stood up, grabbed her phone from the counter, and opened the text with Mark. I threw it onto the table in front of her. She stared at the screen, her hands trembling. Tears welled up in her eyes. "I can explain," she whispered. "Go ahead," I said, crossing my arms. "Explain how my wife ended up in a hotel room with my best friend." She broke down, sobbing. "I was drunk. I wasn't thinking. It was a mistake." "A mistake?" I yelled. "A mistake is one night. This has been going on for months." She didn't deny it. She just sat there, crying, begging for forgiveness. "It didn't mean anything," she kept saying. "I love you. I made a horrible mistake." But her tears didn't move me. The betrayal was too deep. I told her to pack a bag and leave. She begged me to reconsider, to go to therapy, to give her another chance. I told her I needed space to think, but in my heart, I already knew it was over. The next morning, I called Mark. "We need to talk," I said. We met at the park, a place where we'd spent countless afternoons as kids. When he arrived, he had the nerve to smile at me like nothing was wrong. "What's up, man?" he asked, casually. I didn't bother with pleasantries. "How long have you been sleeping with my wife?" The color drained from his face. "What? I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled out my phone and showed him the screenshots. His jaw tightened, but he didn't deny it. "I didn't mean for it to happen," he said. "It just did. We didn't want to hurt you." "Didn't want to hurt me?" I yelled. "You've been lying to my face for months." He tried to apologize, but I wasn't interested. I told him to stay out of my life, and then, for good measure, I sent all the evidence to his wife. The fallout was explosive. Emily tried to save our marriage, but I couldn't look at her without seeing betrayal. Mark's wife kicked him out and filed for divorce. But even after they were gone, the pain lingered. I couldn't stop replaying the events in my head, questioning everything. How long had they been laughing at me behind my back? How many times had I trusted them while they were stabbing me in the heart? In the end, I realized something. Revenge doesn't heal wounds. It doesn't fix the broken pieces. The only way to move forward is to let go. But I'll never forget, and I'll never trust so easily again.